Hello everybody and Linux fans, and thank you yet again for joining in and tuning into one of my new videos, which, as you may well know, I've decided to change them drastically. Now why? Clearly you guys actually want me to play games 30% of the time and want me to do actual videos about installing games 70% of the time. And since I realized that, I actually had a lot of pre-recorded footage that I basically had to make use of because otherwise it would be a waste. And so what I did was I just kept on posting whatever gameplays I actually had of both Firewatch and Tomb Raider. The last two videos that I actually posted were of Tomb Raider, and they were simply just a fill out as to everything else that I was doing on the channel because I didn't start filming these videos up until now. So, as you may know, now we have kind of decided that we will switch things around just a little bit. Don't worry, there's still gonna be a bit of gaming because I know that some of you guys really like the gaming parts, but other people just want installs. And in order for me to stay true to the channel and for you guys to actually keep having fun with whatever I'm doing, as well as I just decided to combine these two together and basically make a mix of Clueless Girl installs different distros and then tries these distros out, talks about them and how they feel for somebody who is actually not that well versed in Linux and is a newbie and is this and is that, and also game a little bit on them. So try out different games with the different distros, see how they run, see if we have any difficulties, and generally if I have any hints or any tips as for the usage. So that's gonna be basically our new installments. You're gonna be seeing a whole lot of that.
Wow!
You know, you see these beautiful frames over here. You see these because I'm actually not filming on my Linux PC. I'm filming on my camera. That's better quality, guys. We always like better quality. Regardless, let's actually start with the start and talk about the second distro I installed. Now, you may ask
me, Alex, what the hell happened? Alex, what the hell were you thinking? Alex, oh my god, why did you install Arch Linux first time around and not second or third time around?
Because a lot of you guys mentioned in the comments that Arch Linux was actually not the best idea in terms of installation for somebody who has actually never done any Linux distros at all. I'm adventurous.
Oh, no.
I like counting my blessings. I like trying different difficult things out because I get a bigger kick out of it. So what did I decide to do? I just installed Arch. Now, in comparison to Arch, Ubuntu had absolutely nothing to do with all of the struggles and all of the horror that I had to live through while I was installing Arch, okay? So basically, the only thing that I had in mind from the very start with Ubuntu was simply me thinking about what I actually needed to install Ubuntu. So I sat down and I was like, okay, where's my ISO? I need to find it. I need to find my trusty download file so I can actually boot Ubuntu onto my USB. So practically what I actually did was, I threw in the ISO file of Ubuntu right into my USB, and this USB then I later on just plugged into my computer, and this is how I started installing Ubuntu. One thing I did omit that I should not have omitted. Shame. Another Clueless Girl tip, or another Clueless Girl thing to do. For me now to partition the Arch Linux disk beforehand to make sure there's enough space for Ubuntu. Girl didn't do that because I didn't feel like it, quite honestly. And eventually I just started thinking about how maybe other people that have no idea about Ubuntu and about Arch Linux and maybe Windows on the side, in general dual booting of a computer or of a distro of an OS, overall may not have this knowledge about Linux either. But that was something that came afterwards, just to reinforce my own opinion of not having installed the partitions. So regardless, I didn't partition the disk. I basically just had Ubuntu literally do its thing. The only thing I had to change was the boot order, so I just needed to get into UEFI, and since it was automatically booting me into Arch Linux, although my fast boot is turned off and all of these kinds of things, it was still landing directly into my Arch Linux, and my USB stick also had the previous Arch Linux installation file on it. And so basically I had both the Ubuntu and the Arch Linux installation file. Yes, at the start, the only thing I did was change the boot order so it would boot directly the USB first rather than the operating system that was already pre-installed, which I did from the UEFI settings. I just ran a very short code for boot order into the terminal. I changed the boot order, everything was fine, everything was great, it was grand. And yeah, I think at this point I actually just booted the USB drive, restarted the computer. I made sure that it was actually starting. I saw the Ubuntu logo, and then it started thinking.
And it was thinking. And it was thinking again.
It was thinking for a very, very, very long time, and I actually thought myself that something went wrong with it, that in the end I wasn't really gonna have a Ubuntu installation just because I didn't partition the disk. At the very start it asked me, I'm seeing that you have 2 things installed. Would you like to install Ubuntu on the side of Arch Linux, or would you like to just clean swipe install Ubuntu with nothing Arch Linux related? And I basically said, obviously I want to dual boot, so I want to install it on the side of Arch Linux, and that's what I would prefer to do. I chose the regular installation path. I think it was called normal installation rather, which normal installation included all of the games, all of the additional features, third-party apps and content that Ubuntu has, because I wanted to try it out again and test it for people that have not really had that much experience with Ubuntu and have no idea what kind of programs they're actually going to get from this whole experience. I decided, okay, let's just keep my files from Arch Linux and let's just do a new Ubuntu installation, because why the hell not? I did go ahead and do that. It asked me which country are you from, and I could, just put in the country name. And then additionally to that, there was a map that was showing all of the different countries, just in case I forgot how my country was called, but didn't forget how it looked like on the world map, which I found very curious. Regardless, this is not to bash Ubuntu or, Ubuntu installation, because I have to be honest here when I say, if you literally, if you see my notes that I was taking, because I was taking notes to make this video for you guys and to be completely objective, my notes during the installation were like, oh, what the hell? This is going to install itself. Are you kidding me? I don't have to use a console. How is this possible? I am not touching anything. It's installing grub on its own. How is this possible? It's doing its own updates and also downloading all additional software. I literally had no idea. I was literally blown. It literally sent me out of Earth and made me come back to Earth, because I have... Okay, wait. Maybe I should put it into context and I should explain to you how my first Arch Linux installation went. If you haven't seen that, you should definitely go and check out the second video that I ever uploaded on this channel, which should be in the gaming playlist of the gaming section on this channel. So please go ahead and check it out, because it's really, really important. My first installation was Arch Linux, and that didn't go that well. It took me 2 days to actually install the whole thing, and I needed a bunch of people to help me out, to actually tell me what to do, what kind of codes to put in, and how to actually make this whole thing situation work, because People of Reddit and people of GitHub are amazingly gifted with everything they do, but whatever explanation they would give me, I would need an explanation for that explanation. The Arch Wiki is not that helpful when you're a complete noob and you have absolutely no idea as to how to install things, as I've mentioned before and as I spoke to you guys about in the comments. The Ubuntu community basically had an installation guide in which it said it depends on how you want to install Ubuntu. You can boot it from a CD, you can boot it from a USB, you can boot it from this and that and this and that. And here is basically what you have to do. It sounded like we're just talking about a Windows installation here, even easier than Windows, in my opinion, because Windows sometimes you need to select users, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to, I don't know, select the path. Just pretend like I've given you such a profound explanation of Windows installations, then you can definitely relate to how much easier Ubuntu installation actually is in comparison to Arch Linux. Right.
Can you imagine that?
Ubuntu has led me through the process amazingly well. It had its flow, it was doing its own thing. I didn't really have to do anything. I basically only had to tell it which type of installation I wanted, if I wanted it to wipe everything or to keep my files, where I was from, what my time zone is. I needed to tell it basically if I wanted to proceed with the installation a couple of times, because that was the other thing that I was going to talk about. But apart from that, honestly, I didn't really have any difficulty with the installation in itself. Everything was colorful, it was easy to read. I had no problems understanding what it asked me to do. Unlike with Arch Linux, where you don't really have to understand things, you just have to put things yourself into the console. And if you're not doing something right, you're just gonna get an error message. While Ubuntu is literally just like you sit down and you get pop-up messages every single time you're supposed to make a decision, more or less, if that makes sense, as to what should be installed and in what capacity, which is more or less Windows, but even an easier version of that. Right. That being said, I do have a few hiccups to talk about, and one of these things was actually the fact that it was freezing all of the time. The last 3 steps that I had to go through, it froze through all of these 3 steps to the point where I had to almost exit in order for it to prompt me, or rather to ask me whether I wanted to wait or I wanted to close the program, at which point it actually, started thinking, oh wait, I have a process running in the background. Which is installing things. Now, I am not sure if that has anything to do with the Ubuntu installation wizard in itself or with my PC. I don't know if that was the case for many people, but that's my experience, and at some point I was not really sure if it actually even kept installing itself. It was just frozen and there was no progress bar. There was nothing that was telling me that it kept on installing itself. But since I'm quite the impatient person, I just wanted to press it. I just wanted to make sure that it was still installing. So I just wanted for the computer to tell me at least one thing to make sure that I am still installing it. Yeah, I just kept making it feel annoyed, maybe. Yonsei, I'm sorry. I actually managed to install it without any problem. But as you can imagine, after the installation, and after I managed to actually get it booted into my beautiful Yonsei II, that has been through a lot with Rise of the Tomb Raider, don't even ask me. She has been through a lot, and Ubuntu was definitely quite easy for her to run. She booted right into it, there was no problem whatsoever. I did see that most of my things that I did have installed on Arch Linux were not there, because Dun, 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 dun. Girl didn't want to partition disk, so girl actually got consequences happening to her. So if you are a brand new Linux user, regardless of which distro you're using, it does not really matter. If you already have Windows or macOS installed on your machine and you want to keep having the system or this OS, and in addition to it just install some distro of Linuxes, you can definitely do that. In that case, however, you need to do a dual installation or dual booting of these two OSs, so that whenever your PC starts loading, you can actually see and choose between this or that OS. Because of that, you need to just install the second OS additionally, which would be your Linux OS, right? Even for Windows dummies, you need to partition the disk, or you need to squish the disk in order for you to be able to actually have Ubuntu or Linux Mint or whatever have you installed additionally to Windows or to macOS. And so because of that, you need to have your own little space, otherwise the system will override Ubuntu or whichever new distro you're installing in addition to your original one. It will override most of your files and data. And smart people usually would tell you to back up all of your documents and stuff, but I could take a chance, nota bene, I could take a chance because I barely had anything installed on my Linux machine. The most important things were quite honestly my video files that I had for you guys that were still on there. But since Hermano and I are using just online servers, I didn't really need to keep these files on my Linux PC actually. And so basically I had everything to risk and I could just go crazy. This I also did additionally to my first explanation. I also decided to do that to try and see whether someone who didn't know about disk partitioning would suffer very big consequences if they didn't choose to do so at the very start. Spoiler alert. Yes, it does delete everything on your disk. Now don't try and do this at home, guys. Do partition your disk beforehand to make space for whatever new distro you're going to be installing, and make sure you back up your data, especially if you just want to make sure that everything is fine. So that was literally the only thing that I had to go through, and made me feel mildly annoyed, but to be honest, I did this to myself. So I can't really blame anyone else for that. If you guys have no idea how to partition things or have no idea of the concept overall, don't know how to do that on your own, and are considering just not doing that, you can of course back your data up somewhere at an external hard drive or a USB if you have that small of data, you know. Just back it up somewhere, completely install one or two things new, and then have your data transferred again to your operating system. Please do bear in mind that then it won't really be dual booting the systems. You will just have one system, which is the case that I have right now. I basically just had Ubuntu overwrite whatever I had on Arch. I can enter Arch, or rather I can try entering it. The logo of Arch appears, but it doesn't boot any further. I don't know if that's because of the boot order that I actually set up or not. I will investigate in our next video, which you have to watch now. You're absolutely obligated to watch our next video. If you like this video, you have to, you must. I will be very mad if you don't. I will hold you accountable. I will come to your house, install Windows on your Linux PC, and I will not back your files up. So you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please stay tuned for the next one, since I'm going to be trying Ubuntu out and talking all about programs, where they are, what the environment looks like, do I like it, do I not like it, is it easy to use. That was my Ubuntu installation experience of a Clueless Girl gaming on Linux. If you guys liked it, Make sure you like it. Make sure you let me know in the comments. Show me some of the love that you have for me, because I've been needing some love, you guys. If you are excited about the addition to the series, or you want me to try out a completely new distro, by the way, I will be also looking to install Lutris and some other games, so yes, I hope you like that. If you have any recommendations for distros that you would like me to try next, please do let me know. I feel like we've commented the worst distro of them all, which was Arch Linux installation, and likely the other mother distros that likely have a very similar installation to Arch, but never mind that, just pretend like you didn't hear. If you liked everything, guys, share the love with me. I will see you in the future. Thanks so much for your time and have a wonderful day. Bye!